in for today's webinar. Today is our 81st webinar, and we have an interesting topic today. Before I introduce the speaker, let me just introduce the organization as well as the various initiatives that we have carried over the last few years. One and the foremost thing, as all of you would be aware, and we have been also reiterating the fact that because of the various kinds of concrete that is being manufactured, it is very important that we understand the quality of construction materials also that goes into making concrete. And during this pandemic time, it is very important that we stay innovative and agile, as well as try to see how we can make the best use of the available resources. So keeping that in mind, as far as the types of cement are concerned, we have the various types of cement, as all of us know, as per the Indian Standard Code. We have the ordinary Portland cement as per IS 269. We have the rapid hardening Portland cement IS 8041. Portland Pozmana cement as per IS 1489. Now, within IS 1489, you have two parts. That is, one is for calcined clay and the other is for the usage of fly ash. This is as far as the usage of fly ash is concerned. Portland slag cement as per IS 455 and SRPC as per IS 12330. Now, as you can see that within each type of cement, there are various brands of cement as well. Like say, for example, under ordinary Portland cement, we have Ramco 43 grade, 53 grade, Infra 43 grade, Infra 53 grade. So the idea is 43 grade is basically recommended for all government works because that is what is specified. And as all of you know, 43 grade, we have the upper limit of cement strength as 58 MPa. Then we have the Ramco 53 grade. Then the infra cement is meant for those concreting applications where slump retention is the major criteria. Like say, for example, when it is being used in RMC units, blending material is being used at the plant itself. And then one of the primemost requirement is that the concrete needs to have a longer slump retention time. So in some cases, it is more than 3 hours as well because of the traffic congestion as well as for other preparation work. So for those concrete which needs a high slump retention, the ideal cement is Ramco 53 grade infra, where one can blend those blending material as well. For precast applications, we have Ramco Superfast, which is being used by many precast units, whether it is the hollow block, solid block, aerated autoclaved blocks, that is the AAC block units, the paving block manufacturers, the well ring manufacturers, as well as the precast components, which is being used for many infrastructure projects. So that for those applications, Ramco Superfast is ideal because the primemost criteria there is the faster rate of gain of strength. Then within PPC cement, you will find Ramco Super Grade, Ramco Super Crete, Ramco Super Fine, Karthik Super Plus. Now, Ramco Super Crete is specifically a PPC cement which is specifically meant for concreting. Super Grade, Super Fine, Super Plus are cements which are meant for all other applications, including concreting. The idea is that it is having low heat of hydration, enhanced durability. Then we have the Portland slag cement, wherever slag cement is being specified, mostly in the eastern part of the country. We have Ramco Super Steel as well as Ramco Samudra. Then we have the sulfate-resistant Portland cement, which is being used, Ramco Super Coast, which is being used in areas where there is a high concentration of sulfates. Now, before we go into those, the idea of using SRC for sulfates, we need to make sure that chloride is not present in those soil, because when chloride is present, then the sulfate-resisting Portland cement may not be the ideal choice because sulfate-resisting Portland cement is weak in resisting chloride. So that needs to be kept in mind. So these are the 12 types of cement, 12 brands of cement that is being manufactured by Ramco Cements. And then we have, as all of you know, that a separate set of product is required for non-structural applications, whether it is for plastering, whether it is tile grout, of course, the putty, which all of us use for just before painting, the block fix, the Ramco Superfine. So these are some of the dry mix products which is being manufactured from the state-of-the-art dry mix plant at Sri Perumbudur in Chennai. And this has been established in technical collaboration with MTech Germany, and a lot of work has gone behind customizing the product as per the requirements of the customer as far as non-structural applications is concerned. We had launched Ramco Super Crete Cement a year back. This was based on the feedback that was given by many construction professionals, especially at the site level, who wanted a PPC cement with a high rate of gain of strength and at the same time low heat of hydration. Now, having both in the same cement is a challenging task, and that is what we have been able to achieve at our plant, and that is what Ramco Supercrete is meant for, making a high performance concrete. So one of the primemost requirement that we have is that high compressive strength. So high compressive strength is one of the primemost criteria that you can get in Ramco Supercrete cement, because most of them who make M20 grade of concrete wants that strength 20 MPa within 7 to 10 days. Because of many of the incorrect construction practices that is being followed. So a kind of this thing is required. So high compressive strength, high workability again, which is being measured using the slump cone test. Because many places you will find that high water cement ratio is used, especially sites where there is no provision for testing, smaller sites. So there, the usage of slump cone helps us to sensitize the construction professionals about the need to maintain a lower water cement ratio, especially in areas like Chennai, which is a coastal area. The minimum grade of concrete is M25 with a 0.45 water cement ratio, but hardly I do not know how many of the sites are using 0.45 water cement ratio, but that is one of the requirement as well as high workability. Then enhanced durability. So Ramco Supercrete will be able to give you the enhanced durability in concrete structures, which is one of the most important parameters, because what we are looking at is the longevity of concrete structures, especially as far as the corrosion of steel reinforcement is concerned. Of course, there are other practices also that needs to be followed, like say, for example, giving a good quality cover to the steel reinforcement bars, and the thickness of the cover, the quality of the cover, which goes in a long way to mitigate the corrosion of structures near the marine areas. Now, to understand all this and to get going, what we have got is that apart from the quality testing that goes in our plant, we have a separate research and development center at Chennai, the Ramco Research Development Center (RRDC), which has been started. One is to help the construction professionals to make an optimum mix design, because as all of us know, aggregates, sand, nowadays you have the M sand, because river sand is not available. So we need to ensure that the concrete mixes are made using M sand. And so for that, what we are doing is that we are doing concrete mixed design with the available materials and with the kind of chemical admixtures that is available, because there are a number of chemical admixtures that is available nowadays in the market, and we need to ensure how our cement behaves with those admixtures. So the cement admixture compatibility studies is what is also being done. Of course, the durability studies, which is normally not followed at site, but which is essential. This is as per ASTM standard, the rapid chloride ion penetration test, which is required for checking the durability of concrete, which is again measured depending on the amount of charge that is passing. Say, for example, 4,000 coulomb, you will find that it is not a durable concrete. So anything less than 2,000 is good enough, because the penetrability will be low, and you will find that the durability of concrete can also be measured. So this is one of those tests which indicates the durability of concrete, and you can always check the durability using a high strength cement, because high compressive strength does not necessarily mean that the concrete is having high durability. Then there are other testing parameters also, like say, for example, in our RRDC, we also have this water permeability test as per DIN standards, which is based on the concept of how much water penetrates when you maintain a particular pressure. So those say, for example, 5 bar, 10 bar, whatever is to be measured, pressure has to be maintained, it can be maintained. Either concrete cube can be used as a specimen, or cylinders can be used as a specimen. So based on the specification that is there, and based on the amount of water that penetrates, one can measure the durability of concrete. So these are some of the facilities that is available for measuring the durability of concrete. As all of us know, right product for right application is what we always advocate, because it is not that any type of cement can be used for any type of work. We need to see the cement, we need to understand the quality of cement before we go in for making a concrete. Of course, various awards have been won. As all of you know, Ramco Group, which started Ramco Cement, which started in the year 1960s, with our first plant, we have been given this 4 Leaves Award for incorporating the latest technology in our cement plant, and to ensure that it is environmental friendly, and utilization of blending materials in the manufacture of cement. So we also had the privilege of associating with many project author professionals like ITD Cementation, Tata Housing, Larsen & Toubro, and many institutions like the Metro and many uh, projects in the eastern part of the country. And with this construction groups, we have been able to understand the various types of concrete, because each client would be having a different specification. Like say, for example, there was this tunneling work in a particular project. Then you have various kinds of projects like bridges. Then you have multi-storied buildings where pumpable concrete is required, and then underground works again where durability is of the primemost criteria. Say, for example, while piling, it should not choke and things like that. So there are many challenges that has to be faced, and that's why our association with various project personnel as well as institutions has helped us to understand the various challenges faced by them. Now, we have been organizing a series of webinars, and today being the 81st webinar, and we continue to organize this. So next week, starting from Monday onwards, we have this 3-day national webinar series, again in collaboration with Institution of Engineers. So we have All India President Engineer Narendra Singh, Dr. G. Rameshwar Rao, who has actively helped in making this possible for the next week. So the first day would be by Dr. KVL Subramaniam, who is Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, IIT Hyderabad, who would be talking about innovations for sustainable development. That is on 20th July, Monday at 11 a.m. Then the second talk would be by Dr. V. Bikshma, who is a professor at Osmania University, who would be talking about the importance of special concrete, geopolymer concrete. That would be on the second day between 11 to 12. And on the third day, we have a talk by Dr. Ram Charla Pradeep Kumar on earthquake safety of tall buildings, some salient provisions of IS 16-1700. So these are some of the talks that we are organizing next week in collaboration with the Institution of Engineers Telangana Center. As far as today's speaker is concerned, today's speaker we have Professor Ravindranath Chaudhary, who has taken off time from his busy schedule to be here with us to share his presentation and his experiences. So he is assistant professor at NICMAR, Hyderabad. That is the National Institute of Construction Management and Research. He has acquired his master's in construction technology and management from IIT Madras, and he is a qualified civil engineer, one of the top rankers from JNTU College of Engineering. He has experience with Larsen & Toubro, because immediately after his graduation, he has been in the roles of quality engineer, site execution, project planning, and he was involved in the Visakhapatnam steel plant expansion project. And he did his post-graduation through L&T's Build India Scholarship Program. And after being in L&T, in the Department of Site Execution, Tendering, he played a major role in securing eminent contracts for the organization. After that, he switched over to academics, starting with NICMAR Hyderabad. His multifaceted experience in construction sector made a coveted teacher in the areas of estimation and costing, project risk management, project management systems and techniques, contracts and tendering, and software such as Primavera and Microsoft Project. So he imparts knowledge to students enrolled for various programs at NICMAR. He sought after trainer and resource person for majority of management development program and company-based program organized by NICMAR. In addition to teaching and training, he is also accorded with coordination responsibility of two specialized programs, namely PGP QSCM and PGP HSCM. And Professor Chaudhary currently pursues his PhD from IIT Delhi. So that's about the speaker of the day, Professor Ravindranath Chaudhary, who would be talking to us about the most important thing, testing of concrete materials. So welcome, Professor Ravindranath Chaudhary, and over to you for your presentation. You can start off with your presentation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir. How much time I have, sir?
You can take
1 hour, okay. So very good morning to all. So today's my presentation is on testing of concrete materials as per Indian standards. So mainly I will be covering the tests that are specified in Indian standards with respect to the various concrete, the materials that we use in the concrete. So before going into the actual content, so I hope everyone are taking the precautions related to the COVID, mainly the mask, social distancing, as well as washing your hands and sanitizing. I hope you all are doing this and continue doing this until we are in safe position. Thank you. And coming to the outline of today's presentation, first I will be talking about why we need to go for testing of materials and what all the different materials that we use in the concrete, and then coming about what are the various tests. As you know, with respect to the various materials, and there are a lot of tests that are being prescribed in Indian standards, but it will be not, the time is not sufficient of 1 hour to cover all the tests. So in today's session, I will be covering basically the important tests or the basic tests that are required as an engineer or whenever you are going to work in sites or any other locations. So in that, as part of that, I will be covering mainly the tests on cement and the aggregates. So if you see why we need to go for the test, so I'm taking one of the slide from Anil Kumar Pillai sir, the right product for the right application. So if you see that, if you want to use the right product for any of the right application that you want to go, you should know what is that product is and what are the characteristics of the product. So if you want to know the characteristics, first we should know what is how you are going to test it and what are the requirements as per the standards, and are the material having the required specifications or the standards that are mentioned. So mainly to understand and quantify whether a specific material is suitable for particular application. So you can see the cement, whether it is in good quality or not. There can be various tests which can say that whether the cement can be used in construction or not. So as well as you can see there are a lot of aggregates which you can see. You may say the aggregate can be used for construction. Some people will say that it cannot be used for construction, depending on uh, the situation they are in. If they don't have any other materials available, they say that I can use this material and produce the concrete and use it. But the impact of wrong usage of materials, some you'll be getting immediately and some you'll be getting maybe at a later date with respect to durability or longevity of the end product that you are going to make in construction. So if we see the basic materials that we use in the construction, the basic raw material is the cement, which we are going to use as a binding material. Then you are going to
Sorry,
use water.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Can you please, sir? It's
It's
not
not
loaded.
coming, sir. Oh,
No, sir. You will have to do redo the whole exercise, which is third button, share content and share screen.
okay, sorry. I think,
Yeah, it's getting loaded.
so is it coming,
Okay.
sir?
Yeah, we can start from the outline, sir.
Yeah, we can start.
Yeah,
We are
so
able
the
to see.
basic, okay, the outline is the need for the test of materials, then basically what are the various materials that constitute the concrete, and then what are the various tests that we do in the cement and the aggregates. Because so there are a lot of tests that are available in the standards, I will be covering the basic tests of cement and aggregates, and if possible, later we can put the next level of tests that can be performed on the materials. So by seeing just the cement and the aggregates that are available in the screen, you can say that the cement can be used or the aggregates also can be used, but that depends on for which product you are going to use the materials and also the availability of the materials in that particular location. And there are various other parameters which will decide you to take that particular materials. But you can use at that point of time, but we'll come to know the appropriate usage of the end product only after a certain period of time, until and unless you can't say that metal is good or not. So before, instead of depending on the long term basis, just try to do the proper tests for the materials and see whether the material is the right product for using in the end use that you're going to have. So if we see the various materials that we are going to use in concrete, mainly the binding material cement, then we have water, we have fine aggregate and coarse aggregate. Fine aggregate can be river sand or crushed sand. There are a lot of materials that are available now. And then we have coarse aggregates of different sizes depending on the application, varying from 63 mm, 40 mm, then you have 20 as well as up to 10 aggregates. Then we have various types of mineral admixtures like fly ash. Then you have GGBS, silica and silica fume. Then we have metaclean, RHA, Rice's as. So there are a lot of mineral admixtures also that are available. Some are directly blended with the cement and coming up with a different alternate cements like slag cement or pozzolana cement like that. Yeah. So the types of cements which I took from IS 456 latest revision is it varies from 33, 43 and 53 grade, and for each and every code they have also mentioned the conforming IS code. So whenever you are referring to any cement of any grade, you have to see what is IS code that is relevant. That means whenever you are testing a cement of 53 grade, so to check whether it is conforming or not, you have to refer to the particular code that is IS 12269 with respect to 53 grade. So if it is 43, IS 8112. So like that, these are the various types of cement that we have: rapid hardening Portland cement, then we have Portland slag cement, Portland pozzolana cement, and hydrophobic cement. So the test procedure is same for all the cements. Only thing is you have to see what are the specifications that are mentioned in that particular code and whether the cement that you tested is meeting with respect to the code that is the norms that are mentioned in the specific IS code. And with respect to the cement, there are exhaustive list of total 16 tests that are available in the IS codes. Against each of each test, I have given the reference IS code which can be used for doing it. So we'll start with methods of sampling hydraulic cements. So that means before doing the testing, you have to take the sample from the large sample of product that you are going to have. So what is the standard procedure that has to be followed when you are going to take out the samples for the hydraulic cement? That is as per IS 3535. Then we have determination of fineness by dry sieving. Similarly, we have the fineness by wet sieving. So there are different parts of IS 4. IS 4031 basically covers all the testing of cements from part 1 to part 15, which we have here. So total 15 parts are available with respect to the testing of cement. So whichever you can see are highlighted or with underline. So those are the tests that I am covering in today's session. So the first one is methods of sampling hydraulic cement. So if you are going to go for testing of the cement, yeah. So how you are going to draw the samples in the cement. So this sampling covers from the manufacturing till the material that you will be having at the site level, which you are going to have maybe in silos or you can have in the batch. So if you are going to take the samples from the clinker, so you have to take every 1 hour from each kiln after it comes out of the cooling chamber. And all hourly samples must mix it together and shall constitute a composite sample. So at the end of the day, you have to take all the hourly samples and make it as a composite sample. And after taking out the composite sample for chemical analysis, so at every time at the end of the day, you're going to take a sample from the composite sample and you're going to do the testing for the chemical analysis. And the remaining composite sample shall be mixed together and pulverized with gypsum and can be tested for other characteristics, like you have initial setting time, then you have final setting time, then normal consistency. So all these things has to be done with respect to the composite sample. And what are the recommended inspection levels for routine control? So I will just show you the table that is present in the IS 3535. I think it is taking some time for loading.
There is a time lag.
Yeah.
Because when you reckon, click, there is a time lag, I feel. Yes.
So whenever you are taking, suppose the first that we have seen is from the clinker. So whenever you are taking the material from clinker, what are the various tests that you have to perform? One is the chemical composition, that is complete analysis. One composite sample every day for the clinker and every week for the pozzolana. So this is the type of you have to do if you are taking the sample from the clinker. Similarly, if you are taking the sample from the cement grinding, then the chemical composition, one composite sample every week, you have to do the chemical composition. If you are taking the cement from the cement packing in the plant, then one composite sample every week, which you have to perform for the chemical composition. Like that, it has clearly given which test you have to do for which of the samples when you are taking from the plants. Similarly, the fineness you have to do every day. So, and then one every sample, every alternate hour you have to do when you are taking the cement from grinding with respect to the fineness. So here you have to do every hour, but here it is every day, but you are going to collect the sample hourly, and the whole sample that you are collecting hourly, which is made into a composite sample, and on that you have to do the fineness. But here every hourly you have to collect the sample and do the fineness. Similarly, one composite sample every day when you are taking from the cement plant. So you can go through this particular code which gives you in the manufacturing plant of cement, what are the various types of tests that we have to do and how frequently we have to do with respect to that. So then if you are taking the sample from the cement grinding, so for setting time, sample drawn every hour from grinding mill shall be tested. So whenever we are going to take, we have to take every hour from this. And for fineness, we have to take every alternate hour. And the remaining portions of hourly hours. So in all the cases, wherever you are collecting the samples, all will be combined into a composite samples at the end of the day. And similarly, composite samples for the week also shall be prepared. And whenever you are collecting any samples, these all has to be stored in an airtight containers. Otherwise, the cement has a property that it is going to lose some of the strength by taking moisture that is available in the environment or the air. And then from the cement packing, so one composite sample every day from the packing machine shall be tested for fineness, setting time, soundness, of whiteness. And remaining portion of the sample shall be mixed again for the composite sample for the week. And how we have to take the sampling from the conveyors. So here they have clearly given how many lots and sublots that you have to take with respect to when you are taking the samples from the conveyors. So I will just show you with respect to that, as given in table 2 of IS 3535. So here you can see weight in tons. Suppose if you have a lot up to 100 tons, then the number of sublots that you can make is 2. That means minimum you have to make 2 number of sublots. And similarly, if you are making a lot of 1,000 to 2,000 tons, you should make a lot total number of sublots as 7. So that means you have to take 7 sublots if the production is 2,000 tons. And in each 2,000 tons, you have to total take the samples in 7 different times for the sublots. And those again will be made into a composite sample when you are going to do the or perform the testing. For each sublot, you have to do the testing, and again with respect to the overall composite sample. So representative gross sample shall be drawn from each of the sublots and shall be kept separately. So you have to take the samples from the sublots as well as it should be kept separately to make a composite sample. And if you are storing the cement in the bulk storage like the silos, so lots to be divided again. So the lots division is same as the table that I was showing previously. And gross sample shall be taken from the sublots. So in all these different scenarios, suppose if your bulk storage is up to 500 tons, then according to table 2, if you are having a storage of 500 tons, then you have to see how many sublots of cement you have to take for doing the testing for the sampling. Similarly, sampling from the ship holds, again, what is the total capacity of the ship hold? And accordingly, you have to decide the number of sublots. And if the depth of the cement in that particular ship hold is less than 2 meters, use the slotted tube sampler for collecting the cement. If it is greater than 2 meters, then you have to go with the pipe activated by an air jet for collecting the sample from the ship holds. Similarly, from the wagons, so slotted tube sampler is used and taken at 6 points. So if you have a wagon, you have to take at 6 different distributed points evenly for collecting the sample. And again, that depends on the number of sublots. In each sublot, you have to take 6 evenly distributed samples. And then sampling from the bags, so lots to be divided into number of sublots. So here, when you are having, suppose you are going to do the testing for the cement that is stored in the cement godown, which you are having around 1,000 bags, for example, at least 2 number of bags subject to a minimum of 5 should be sampled chosen at random number as per IS 4905. So that means out of 1,000 bags that you have, 2% is, that means 20 bags is the number of samples that you have to take. And you have to go for the random numbering. So you can start anywhere with the numbering from 1, 2, 3 and all. And the numbers will be R equal to capital N divided by small n. So capital N is the total number of bags that we have, that is 1,000. And small n is the total number of sample that you got, that is 2%. So 1,000 divided by 20. So you have 50. So when you're doing the random numbering from anywhere, so the bag 50 you have to take, and again bag 100, 150. So those are the random numbers that you are going to take. Those are the bags which you have to take the sample from and do the testing. So if you have 50 bags, it is 50 into 2%. So you'll be having one, you have to go for a minimum of 5 bags. And again, you have to go for the random sampling. This is the same process that we have to take when you are sampling from the bags. So this is the tube sampler for cement when you have a depth up to 2 meters when you are taking from the wagons. And the number of tests, that is chemical and physical requirements for which individual laboratory samples shall be tested, and the total sulfur content. as sulfuric anhydride and fineness. So these are the tests that has to be performed in this. And now we have to see with respect to the criteria for conformity. So you have taken the samples and you have tested the sample. What about conformity? That means all the tests has to be meeting the requirement, or if one or two are meeting the requirement, you should be accepting those or not. So with respect to conformity, as mentioned in IS 3535, suppose if you are having only one sample that you are doing the testing, and that test should meet the specification requirement. Even if you have two, it should meet the specification requirement. That means both the samples has to meet the specification requirement that is mentioned in the particular IS code for which cement that you are going to test. And when you have a samples of more than three or more, then you are going to X for the sum of the test results divided by the number of test results. Then you are going to find out the range. What is the difference between the maximum and the minimum values of the test results? That means suppose if you are having a compressive strength of 53 grade, you have 28 days, 53 is the strength that you have to achieve. Doing this particular value, and if X, that is the average value minus the 0.5 R, is coming as a minimum of 53, then you are going to accept it. In some of the cases, it says that like you have initial setting time, which is saying, for example, maximum 1 hour. So in that case, the value should be minimum less than the value that is mentioned as 1 hour. So like that, you have to see if it is given a particular range like 30 minutes to 600 minutes. So in that case, whatever the value that you are getting from X minus 0.5 R, so that value should be ranging within that particular value. Then you are going to accept that particular cement. So only if you have more than 3, you have to follow this with respect to the conformity of checking whether the cement is as per the requirement of IS standard or not. So that is about methods of sampling hydraulic cement. So then I will be covering about the determination of fineness by dry sieving. So this is as per IS 4031 part 1. So in all the procedures for all the tests, I have basically given what are the apparatus that we are going to use, and if there are any specific materials that are required, as well as the procedure that is followed, and what is the calculation to get the final value. ISO for whatever is the results that you are going to get for all the tests that I'm going to cover. And with respect to the apparatus, we are going to have a test sieve of 90 micron when you are doing the fineness of the cement, a balance and a brush. So balance everywhere I'm mentioning as a simple balance, but you have to refer the particular code to see what actually the least count or the minimum weight that you are going to, or the minimum value that you are going to record in the balance. So those precautions you have to take when you are going to use that particular test, when you are performing that particular test. And the procedure for this is I the sample of cement to be tested by shaking minutes in a stoppered jar to disperse the agglomerate. Sometimes you'll be having small lumps that are present in the cement bags or whenever you are taking the sample. So for that purpose, you have to agitate the particular sample for 2 minutes so that whatever the lumps are there, that will be coming into a powder form. And still stir the resulting powder gently by using dry rod in order to distribute the fines through the cement. So to have the uniform distribution of fines, you are going to use a dry rod and distribute the fines. And you'll be having a 90 micron sieve, and below that you are going to fit a tray so that whenever you are going to sieve it, whatever the fine particles are there which are passing through 90 microns, that will be collected on the tray. And whatever the particles which are retained on the 90 micron, which you'll be having on the sieve. So take approximately 10 grams of cement and place it on the sieve and disperse any agglomerates. So if there are still any agglomerates that you can disperse, and then agitate sieve until no more fines pass through it. So you have to sieve it and make sure that there are no more fines passing through it. Then you can stop that particular test. So like you can take a cement, and this is the 90 micron sieve, and below that you are going to keep a pan, and above that you can keep the lid and do the particular sieving, and remove and weigh the residue. So whatever is the residue that is left in the 90 micron sieve, that you are going to weigh and see how much is the mass as the percentage that is going to be retained in that particular one, and repeat the process for another 10 grams and calculate the residue percentage. And if whenever you are doing the first test and you are doing the second test, if the results are differing by more than 1%, then carry out the third sieving and calculate the mean of the three values. So you can't, so you have to be careful in each time, because 10 grams out of which 1%, if you're having a variance, you have to perform the other test. So it, or you have to go for the third test and take the average of all the three values. So that is with respect to the fineness by dry sieving. And then we'll be having the consistent standard cement paste. So what is normal consistency and how you are going to do the perform that particular test? This is as per part 4 of IS 4031. So this is consistency is nothing but how much is the amount of water that is required to produce a cement paste for the standard consistency. That means which is good for construction, having a required workability with respect to the masons or for whichever purpose that you are going to do it. So for that, how much water that we have to add into the cement. That is given a standard consistency is defined as that consistency which will permit Vicart plunger to penetrate to a point 5 to 7 mm from the bottom of the Vicart mold. So suppose so this is a Vicart mold that you are going to have, and this is the plunger that you are going to use for this particular operation. So once you prepare the mix and then place into the mold, and once you are inserting this mold into the plunger, so it should stop 5 to 7 mm from the bottom of the mold. So whatever is the water percentage that you are going to get with respect to that reading that you are going to get is called as a standard consistency measure. And in all the cement tests that you are going to perform, there should be a temperature maintained around 27 plus or minus 2 degrees centigrade in the laboratory. And in most of the sites, generally, this is not maintained. We can have variation in the results. So you have to make sure for performing the test. So this is the one of the basic criteria. And also relative humidity not less than 65%. And previously, in the previous revisions of IS code, it was given about 65 plus or minus 5%. They have revised in the latest revision and given as not less than 65%. That means minimum 65% relative humidity you have to maintain in that particular laboratory or a controlled room where you are performing the test. And the apparatus is Vicart apparatus conforming to IS 5513. So whenever you are procuring any materials, and make sure that are the equipments performing or conforming with respect to the standards that are mentioned in the IS code. And the balance, again, you have to check with respect to the least count or the minimum weight and the standard weights. Even for the standard weights, the IS code has clearly specified how much should be the tolerance with the weights that you're going to have. So you also make sure that it is with respect to those variances in the IS code. And then the gauging trowel mainly for mixing the, so this is the gauging trowel which you are going to use for mixing the cement and the water before performing the actual test. So the procedure that is followed is prepare a paste of weighted quantity of cement with a weighted quantity of potable or distilled water. You can take some quantity of cement and some quantity of water. So it is a trial and error process which you have to start with. And at some point, you are going to find the actual water percentage that is required to get the standard consistency. So whenever you are mixing the cement and water, you should not mix less than 3 minutes and you should not mix more than 5 minutes. So if you are not able to get the uniform color of the mixing within 5 minutes, then you have to discard that particular cement and again you have to go for remixing. So you have to make sure that you are getting uh, complete mix within 5 minutes, maximum 3 to 5 minutes in a range. So the time for gauging is nothing but the time from the time you are adding water to the dry cement, because as and when you add water to the cement, it starts reacting the hardening of the cement. Place a mold on a non-porous plate. So this is a non-porous plate which is going to be used whenever you're using the Vicart apparatus. And these are the 3 needles depending on the test you are going to perform. For the consistency, this is the plunger that we are going to use for performing the test. And place the mold on a non-porous plate and fill the mold completely with the paste and smoothen the surface and level. And mold shall be taken slightly to expel the air. So whenever you are keeping that particular paste in the mold, there can air voids that are present in the mold. So you have to just slightly shake with this mold and make sure that whatever the entrapped air is that is coming out from the mold. And place the test block in the mold after immediately releasing, after immediately filling the mold together with the non-porous plate until the rod bearing the plunger, lower the plunger gently to touch the surface block. So if you see here, so after filling this and you have removed the air void, keep the mold at this position and fix this plunger to the Vicart apparatus and then slowly release up to the surface of the mold and then gently release the plunger so that it is going to penetrate into that particular mold and you can note down the reading. If it is going till the bottom, that means you have to again reperform the test by decreasing the water content. If it is not reaching up to the bottom, maybe stopping somewhere in between from the top half, then you have to increase the water content. So like that, you can do trial and error basis and see at what time you are getting a percentage of water where the plunger is stopping at 5 to 7 mm from the bottom. So that is the water content that you have to note down for performing the consistency. Because without doing test, you can't do any of the other tests like the compressive strength or the initial setting time and the final setting time. So express the amount of water as the percentage by mass of the dry cement. So you should note down what is the water sample that you have added and perform the test. And if it is with respect to that, and take the percentage of that particular water with respect to the cement dry weight or dry weight. Okay. So, sir, am I going fast or it's okay? Just a quick feedback.
It's all right. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Next one is determination of initial and final setting times. That is as per part 5 of IS 4031. So here again, the temperature of molding room materials is 27 plus or minus 2, and relative humidity is the same. And here also we have to use Wacott apparatus, balance, and the standard weights and gauging trowel. And procedure here is prepare a neat cement paste by gauging the cement with 0.85 times the water required for the standard consistency. Suppose here if you are taking 500 grams for making the cement and you got a normal consistency of 12%, so that means around 60 grams of water you have to add, out of which you have to take only 85%. So 85% of 60, approximately 53.5 or 54 grams of water has to be added to the cement that you are going to take of 500 grams. Then start stopwatch when the water is added to the content. So sometimes we forget starting the stopwatch, or we'll start after mixing it. So you have to start the stopwatch as and when you're adding water to the cement. And once you mix the thing and place the mold on porous plate and fill the mold with the paste and smoothen the. So the same process what we have done for the standard consistency, the same, but only thing is the water content here is fixed and there you are doing the trial and error. Now determination of initial setting time. So with respect to the initial setting time, the plunger that you are going to use this is the needle having 1 square mm as the diameter of this, which you are going to use for the initial setting time. And this is the needle that you are going to use for the final setting time. So the needle C is nothing but whatever the needle I have shown for the initial setting time. Lower the needle gently until it comes in contact with the surface, and once it is touching the surface, you have to quickly release and to penetrate to the test block. And here you have to repeat the procedure until the needle fails to pierce the block beyond 5 plus or minus 0.5 mm. With respect to standard consistency, the same process with a different plunger, we are having 5 to 7 mm. But here you have to note down the time at which the needle fails to pierce the block beyond 0.5 mm from the bottom of the mold. So the time from adding the water to the time you are getting this particular reading is called as the initial setting time. And similarly, we have to do the final setting time, but here you are going to replace the needle C, that is the sharp needle, with the attachment F, which I have shown previously. The cement shall be considered as finally set when, upon applying the needle gently to the surface of the block, the needle makes an impression while the attachment fails to do so. So I will just show you that. So here, if you see, this is the needle that you have. There will be one sharp point in the needle will be having here. So that will be able to make an impression, but this particular adjustment that is there in the last, that will not be able to make any impression on the cement. So you have to note down till that particular time, what is the time from adding the water till the time you are able to get that particular impression you are not getting for that particular needle. So that is the total time is called as a final setting time for the cement. As I am not referring any of what should be the minimum, what should be the maximum, you can just refer the particular cement for which you are doing and what is the corresponding IS code for doing it. And the initial and final setting time shall be reported to the nearest 5 minutes, whatever the values that you are going to get. Then with respect to the compressive strength of the cement, so how you are going to perform, whether the cement is 33, 43 or 53 grade, so how you are going to perform that particular test. So here your a moist closet or a moist room shall be maintained at temperature, and but here the humidity that you have to maintain is around 90% and not less than 90%. And here the material to use is a standard sand conforming to IS 650, not the normal sand or the river sand that is available. You have to procure the standard sand that is available conforming to IS 650, which should be used for mixing with the cement and perform the compressive strength of that particular cement. And here the additional apparatus that we are going to use is the vibration machine, the poking rod, which will be available with the vibration machine that you are going to get, and then the cube mold of 70.6 or 50 square meter in size or in area, which is conforming to IS 10080, and then the graduated glass cylinders of 150 to 200 mm, which is used for measuring the water and pouring for the mixing of the cement and the sand. And preparation of the test specimen. So material of each cube shall be mixed separately. So this is one common mistake which we generally do. We'll directly prepare the mix for all the 3 cubes or 6 cubes that you are going to cache and do in one process. But as per IS, you have to cache the each cube and mix each cube separately. And each cube should be mixed with a cement of 200 grams and standard sand of 600 grams. And water of P by 4 plus 3%. P by 4, where P is the standard consistency which you are getting from the first test that you are going to perform. If it is 12%, so 12 by 4, 3. So 3 plus 3, 6% is the amount of water that you have to add for this particular mix. First, dry cement mix and sand with trowel for 1 minute on a non-porous plate, and then water until the mixture is of uniform color. So time for mixing should be 3 to 4 minutes. And here also, if you're not able to achieve the uniform color in 4 minutes, the mix should be discarded. And then as you'll be having the molds, so these molds you'll be having the corners some gaps. So further you have to apply petroleum jelly so that whenever you're vibrating, there should not be any water that is leaking out through the gaps that are present, as well as on the bottom, you're going to apply the molding oil so that the water should be intact. So this is the vibrating machine that you are going to use, having a certain specification of the amount of vibration that you can do, that you can perform with this particular equipment. So place the mold on a vibrating machine and hold it firmly. So you'll be having a provision for fixing the mold in the vibrating machine, and then pot with a rod of 20 times in 8 seconds. So when you are doing the compaction, you have to do maximum of 20 times in 8 seconds. Place the remaining quantity in the hopper and prod again and compact vibration for 2 minutes. So when you are using the vibration, you have to do for a 2 minutes, and the speed that has to be kept for that particular vibration machine is 12,000 plus or minus 400 vibrations per minute. And remove the mold together with the base plate and finish the top surface of the cube. And remove them from the mold after 24 hours and keep it in water until taking out just clear. So sometimes what we generally do is, or generally in practice is, you are going to take out the mold maybe 1 hour or 2 hours before, and once it is surface dry, you are going to perform the test. But actually, you have to perform the test immediately after taking out from the water, just prior to breaking, which shall be renewed every 7 days. So depending on the test that you have to do. And loading for testing shall be applied at a rate of 35 Newton per mm square per minute. And calculation for the compressive strength shall be whatever is the strength that you are getting divided by the that is the maximum load divided by the cross sectional area, which is 50 mm square, and how much is the load that you are getting will give you the compressive strength. And here also, do not consider specimens for which strength is differing by more than 10% of the average value. Suppose if you are going to have a 3 cubes and you got average value of X, and the difference between any of the individual strength should not be more than 10% of the average value. And if less than 2 strength values are left, then the retest shall be performed. Out of 3, you are getting 2 less than the 10% of the average, and only 1 is coming within that particular range. Then you have to do the retest and again find out how much is the compressive strength that you are getting. You should not proceed with the average value or whatever is the 1 cube that you got the strength as per the calculations. We have density of cement. So here Le-Chatelet's flask. So this is a Le-Chatelet's flask which will be used for performing the density, which will be having the various calibrations for which will be used when you are performing the test, and analytical balance, and the standard weight. Then the constant temperature bath is another equipment which you are going to use exclusively for the determination of density. And with respect to the materials, you are going to use kerosene free of water or naphtha having a specific gravity of not less than 0.731. And flask shall be filled with liquid to a point of on stem between 0 and 1. So the kerosene free of water shall be filled. So this is the mark 0 or 1 that is available on the Le-Chatelet's flask. So you have to fill the liquid up to this particular level in between 0 or 1. The first reading shall be recorded after the flask has been inserted in the water bath. So as you have to maintain a constant temperature, so you have to fix or you have to place the particular flask into the water bath and take out the reading. So once you take out the reading, a weighted 64 grams of Portland cement shall be introduced into the small amounts without cement adhering. So once you take the reading, then 64 grams of cement is going to be poured into this particular Lee-Chartless flask, and make sure that it is not going to be adhering to the walls of the Lee-Chartless flask that you are going to have. If there is any small quantity, you can incline the Lee-Chartless flask and make sure that everything is coming into the liquid. And stopper shall be placed in the flask, and the flask rolled in an inclined position, so that you are going to, if there are any air bubbles or anything that is attaching or adhering to the surface, that you can remove. And final reading shall be taken after the flask is immersed in the water bath. So after pouring the cement, then you are going to take out the final reading again at a constant temperature, where you are going to place the entire equipment in the water bath. And the density is mass of the cement in grams, which you are taking as 64 grams by the displaced volume. So displaced volume is nothing but, so before inserting the cement, you will be having a volume up to certain level, and then you are going to see how much is the increase in volume because of adding of 64 grams of cement. So if the difference between the two values differ by more than 0.03, the test will be repeated. So if you are getting different values which are more than 0.03, then you have to re-perform the test for the density. And then determination of fall set, which is another quick test that you can do when you are using a particular cement in your projects. So first we'll try to understand what is a fall set and what is a flash set. Fall set is a premature stiffening of the paste or concrete within 1 to 5 minutes after mixing. And fall set can be eliminated by continuous mixing. And most common is presence of gypsum that has partially dehydrated. So if you have any gypsum that is partially dehydrated, and it is going to form plaster of Paris, which results in the temperature of if the temperature of grinding mill is too high. Suppose if the cooling is not, and you are just passing that particular cement into the grinding mill and you are just doing the grinding. So in those cases, you will be having the fall set that is going to come. So you have to make sure that when you are passing the cement from cooling to the grinding, the required temperature has to be maintained, and only the grinding operation has to be started. So to keep the temperature below dehydration point of gypsum, clinker should be cooled before grinding. So you have to make sure that enough cooling is done. And flash set is nothing but rapid development of rigidity, which would make concrete unusable. So flash set can be minimized by taking certain precautions by continuous mixing. But if a particular cement is having a flash set, you can't use that particular cement in the concrete. And here also you are going to use the Vickert apparatus, then weights, graduated glass mainly for measuring the water and pouring, and then the mixing slab for mixing of the concrete, the cement paste. And prepare a paste of a quantity of cement 500 grams with 140 grams, and time of gauging is 3 to 4 minutes. So you have to take 500 grams of cement and 140 grams of water and mix it for 3 to 4 minutes. And fill that paste in the Vickert mold, and you are having a non-porous plate, and level it on the top. And place the test block under the rod of Vickert apparatus. And here also you are going to use the plunger exactly after 20 seconds of completion of mixing. So you just insert that particular plunger and see how much is the penetration that you are going to get after 20 seconds of mixing period of that particular cement paste. And here you are going to note down the initial penetration. That means prepare trial paste with varying percentages of water until the amount of water necessary for plunger to penetrate 28 to 36 mm from the top in 30 seconds. So when we are doing the previous test for the plunger, it has to go through that particular cement immediately or quickly, having the required measurement of 5 to 7 mm from the bottom. But in this case, it has to penetrate 28 to 36 mm in 30 seconds after the release of the plunger. Then we have determination of final penetration. After completion of initial penetration test, the mold plate in new position, and now release the plunger 5 minutes after mixing period and determine the final penetration. So initially you are doing immediately after 30 seconds, immediately after mixing 20 seconds. And there you are going to get a time with respect to the initial, the amount of penetration with respect to the initial penetration. Similarly, you can do the final penetration. So keep the mold separately there for 5 minutes and then do the same operation and see how much is the reading that you are going to get. And determination of remix penetration. Remix is, so in the previous case, you are not disturbing the sample, you are just keeping it for 5 minutes and then you are doing the testing. But in the case of remixing, after completing of measurement of 5 minutes penetration, you are going to return the page and remix for 1 minute. So you have to remold the entire material and mix it for 1 minute and then fill the mold and determine the penetration as above. So when you are doing this remixing operation, you can come across if the early development of can be dispelled and plasticity regained. So if you're able to see that the cement is going to have the same plasticity without mixing any water, that is called as a flash set. And if early development of stiffness cannot be dispelled, that is called as a flash. That means you're not able to mix and concrete is not able to have the plasticity when you are further mixing after 5 minutes without adding any water, that is called as a flash set. And the percentage of final penetration is the final penetration by initial penetration. That is whatever you have the final penetration after 5 minutes and the initial penetration after 20 seconds. Okay. So next, determination of fineness by wet sieving. So the previous, the fineness that we have seen is with respect to the dry sieving. Now we will see with respect to the wet sieving. So here you are going to take 1 gram of sample of cement and you are going to use 40 micron IS sieve and wet the sample thoroughly with a gentle stream of water. So initially you're just making with a gentle stream of water and wet the sample. And then now you are going to use a nozzle and you are going to adjust the pressure of the nozzle as 0.07 plus or minus 0.005 Newton per mm square. So once you make this particular pressure adjustment to the nozzle, and now you are going to take that particular sieve below the nozzle for 1 minute and the depth of the nozzle that you are going to have shall be extended up to 12 mm below the top of the sieve. So the nozzle has to come at least mm below the top of the sieve that you are going to have and wait for 1 minute, or you have to test it for 1 minute. And after that, remove the sieve, the spray and rinse once with the distilled water. And now dry the sieve and residue in the oven. So now you are going to take that particular material which is wet and keep it in the oven and see that you are going to, the material is cool, and then you are going to weigh how much is the sample that is left out under the 45 micron sieve. And here there is the RC is nothing but the corrected residue in percentage, because there is some correction factor which is given when you are doing this particular operation, that is with respect to the sieve correction factor which is given in the IS code. So that can be applied, and residue retained in 45 microns into 100 plus C. C is the sieve performed. So these are the various tests that can be performed with respect to the cement. So now we'll go to the aggregates part. So if the aggregates testing is with respect to the IS 238, there are total 6 parts with respect to, 8 parts with respect to IS 2386. So part 1 is about the particle size and shape, and similarly you have deleterious materials and organic matter. Like that, there are various tests that can be performed. So in today's session, I will be covering about the particle size and shape, what are the various tests that we are going to do, and also with respect to the specific gravity, density, voids, absorption, and the bulking. So first we'll see with respect to the particle size and shape. So under the particle size and shape, we'll be having the sieve analysis and determination of materials finer than 75 microns, and also flakiness index, elongation index, and the angularity number. So these are the most common tests. Also, these are required whenever you're doing the mix design or whenever you're selecting any aggregates for your projects. So the sieve analysis is nothing but the finding the particle size distribution, because we say that we want 20 mm aggregate or 10 mm or the fine aggregate of different zones. So maybe zone 1 to zone 4. So, and one more thing that we have, I want to emphasize here is these are the only the tests which gives about IS 2386. But if you want to see the conformity of the aggregates, you have to refer to IS 383, which gives the values for all the different tests that you are going to perform. So whether it is for sand, whether it is for the flakiness, elongation index, all the values will be mentioned in IS 383. So whenever you are using the sieves, so if you are going to have a sieves greater than 4.75 mm, you can use square hole or perforated plate. If you are using sieves less than 4.75 mm, you have to use fine mesh or the wire cloth sieves that you have to use. And how much is the minimum sample that you have to take when you are going to do the sampling? Like how we are doing the sampling for the cement, in the same way we have to do sampling for the aggregates also from the lots that are available in the project sites. or whenever you are selecting any source, from the source you have to collect the sample, do the test, and then decide whether you are going to select or reject that particular source for your project. So the weight of the sample shall be as per this. So if you are using 20 mm aggregate for the testing, then you have to go for a minimum of 25 kgs of the sample has to be dispatched for testing, or you have to collect the sample of minimum 25 kgs. And then sample for sieving shall be prepared by quartering or by means of sample divider. That means you just lay the 25 kgs of the material in one place and then make into 4 quarters and then select from any of the 1 quarter whatever is the required sample that you are going to do for the sampling. And also the AS code also specifies how much is the minimum quantity of cement that you have to do for doing the sieving. So that will be available here. So minimum weight of sample for the sieve analysis. And this is for selecting from the source, and this is when you are going to perform the sieve analysis. So for the same 20 mm for doing the sieve analysis, you should take a minimum of 2 kgs of the aggregates for performing the sieve analysis. And the procedure is sample shall be brought to air dry condition before weighing and sieving, and which can be achieved by drying at room temperature or keeping in oven for 100 at 100 or 110 degrees centigrade. Each sieve shall be shaken separately over a clean tray until no more traces pass or not less than 2 minutes. So until 2 minutes, if you are shaking, there should not be any traces of the aggregates that are passing in, falling to the next level. So till that point of time, we have to sieve the each sieve we have to shake. On completion of sieving, material retained on each side together with any material clean shall be weighed. So whatever is retained in particular, that should be taken and weighed. If sieving is done using machine, because nowadays the machines are also, so if you are using the sieving machine for doing, you have to do for not less than 10 minutes for each test that you are going to perform. And this is the maximum weight to be retained on the completion of sieving. So the aggregate should not be having more than this particular weight that is mentioned. So if you are doing for the same 20 mm, passing to 45 mm sieve, there should be maximum of 4 kg. If it is, that means if you are using a sieve of 45 centimeter dia, and if you are using a sieve of 30 centimeter dia, 2 kgs is the weight that has to be. So you can't take 10 kgs and do the sieving because it is mentioned as minimum 2 kgs. So you have to make sure that you're also meeting this particular requirement. If you're using 30 mm sieve, the maximum in any sieve should not be more than 2 kgs. So ideally you take between 3 to 2 kgs or 2 to 3 kgs and perform this particular test. Similarly for fine aggregate. So how much, if you're using a 20 centimeter dia sieve, how much is the amount of material that can retain in that particular sieves? And reporting of results, either you can do the cumulative percentage of weight of the total sample passing of each sieve to the nearest whole number. So the weight retained divided by the total value of the material that you take, that is the percentage material that is retained in that particular sieve. So those values you have to take and then check it with respect to the IS 383 to see whether the material is conforming to all in aggregate grading or with respect to the single grading or a nominal size like 20 mm or 25 mm. Next is particle size and shape finer than 75 microns. So here we are going to use an apparatus of 75 micron sieve and 1.18 mm sieve. That means you are going to use these two sieves for doing this particular test. So maximum nominal size and what is the approximate minimum weight of sample that you have to take. Again, if you are using 20 mm size to find out how much is the particle finer than 75 microns, you have to take a weight of 2.5 kgs of the sample. And test sample shall be dried to constant weight. So all the tests that we are going to do for the aggregates has to be in dried condition, or you can keep it in oven and see that there is no water that is present on the surface. And container and sufficient water added to it, because we are checking the particles finer than 75 mm, we are going to use the wet sieving method. So the content shall be agitated vigorously until separation from the coarse particles of all the finer particles. So you have to just shake it or agitate it vigorously so that whatever the finer particles that are there, so those are going to be loose and they are going to be suspended into whatever is the aggregates, the sample that is there in the water. And wash water containing the suspended and dissolved solid shall be immediately poured over the sieves. So now you are having a sieves of 75 microns and 1.18 sieve, and now pour that particular sample that you have in the water onto this particular sieve. and material retained shall be returned to the wash sample. So again, washed aggregate shall be dried, and then you are going to weigh that particular sample. The amount of material passing 75 microns is percentage of material finer than 75 microns. So whenever you're doing that particular, you'll be having retained on 75 micron, and you'll be having passing through 75 microns. So what we are interested is in finding passing 75 microns. So what is your original dry weight and dry weight after washing that particular material? And next one is the particle size and shape with respect to the flakiness index. So here, whenever you are taking the sample of any required size, maybe passing 20 and retaining 12, each you have to take a minimum of 200 number of pieces. Or if you want to know the definition, that the flakiness index is the parameter whose least dimension is less than 3/5 of the mean dimension. So you see how flaky or how thin that particular material is with respect to the nominal size. So that is what we are going to do in this. And these flakiness index and elongation index test cannot be performed if you are having an aggregate size of less than 6.3 mm. And whenever you're taking a sample, you have to take a minimum of 200 number of pieces available in that particular fraction or in that particular sieve sizes that you are going to have. And samples received as described previously, like what we are doing the sieve analysis, the same process has to be applied here and sieve. So this is the flakiness index gauge that you are going to have. Suppose if you are taking an aggregate of passing 20 and retained 16, so minimum of 250 pieces you have to take, and you have to make sure that whether that particular material is passing through this or it is retained. So whatever the material is passing has to be separated, and whatever the material is retained, that has to be separated, so that you can find out how much is the amount of material that is retained as well as how much is the material that is passed. So whatever is the material that is passing, that is the flaky material that you are going to have. So this is the same. Suppose if you have 25 and 20, the thickness gauge is 13.5. So you can see here 25 to 20, which is having a gauge of 13.5 mm. So that is, it is clearly mentioned here, the size of the sieve that you are going to use as well as the thickness of the gauge. And even they have given with respect to the elongation or the elongation index, that is the length gauge. So with respect to the length, how much it will be on it. And separation of flaky material. So whatever is the flaky material which is passing through that particular fraction, you have to separate it. The total amount of passing the gauge shall be weighed. Flakiness index is the total weight of the material passing the various thickness gauge or sieves, expressed as the percentage of total weight of sample gauged. Similarly, the elongation index is with respect to the dimension that is greater than 1/4 the times the dimension, mean dimension. That means with respect to the thickness, you are going to measure what is the length of that particular aggregate that you are going to have. And here also you have to take minimum of 200 pieces of any fraction. So this is the elongation gauge that you are going to have, a metal gauge, and it's the same 20 to 25 mm, like you have here 20 to 16. So this is the elongation gauge. So lengthwise, you have to see whether the material is passing this particular gauge or it is retained. So you have to see how much material is retained in this particular gauge. So when you are taking the flaky material, you are seeing how much material is passing that particular one. And when you are talking the elongation, you have to take how much material is retained in this particular gauge that we are going to have. The elongation index is the total weight of material retained by various length gauges expressed as the percentage of total weight sample gauged. Next is the angularity number. So angularity number will give you with respect to the importance, because ease of handling of mixture, like when you are using in a concrete, so it should be having a homogeneous mixture. So if the angularity number is not of the required number, then you will be having the mixture of maybe it is getting segregation, or you will be having the workability will not be good in that particular mix. Here we are going to use a metal cylinder. Dia and height generally or approximately should be same. Maybe 15 centimeter dia and 15 centimeter height is the typical apparatus that you can take. And the tamping rod, balance, and the scoop. Scoop is for just filling the material into the metal cylinder. And tamping rod is for giving the required tampings for each layer of material that you are pouring into the metal cylinder. And calibration of cylinder. So you have to calibrate to find out how particular cylinder with the weight of water at 27 degrees centigrade. And generally the sample at least 10 kg of predominant size after separation from pair of sieves. So if you are doing for 25 to 20 mm, you have to take at least 10 kgs from that particular sample. So these are the various sieves. You have to take 20 to 16 or 16 to 12.5. So these are the standard sieves that you have to use for measuring the angularity number. So volume of cylinder. So if you are using aggregates of size greater than 20 mm, you can use 3-liter cylinder. If you are using less than mm, smaller cylinder. So the same cylinder cannot be used, or you can use a smaller cylinder for performing the test. And whatever the aggregate that you are going to test, dry it for 24 hours at a temperature of, so that it is in surface dry condition. And scoop shall be filled and heaped with aggregate and shall be placed in a cylinder, allowing to gently slide gently off the scoop from the least possible height. You can't pour that particular material into the cylinder from the top of the cylinder, or you make sure that whatever is the lowest possible height, you just gently slide the material into the cylinder that you are going to have. And aggregate in the cylinder subject to 100 blows distributed uniformly over the surface. So you have a tamping rod. After initial pouring, you give 100 blows at a rate of 2 blows per second, with it rounded at 5 centimeters above the surface of that, so that there should not be any breaking of aggregates with the tamping that you are doing, or when you are pouring it into the cylinder. And filling and tamping of second layer. Similarly, you have to pour the second layer. Same again, 100 blows, 2 blows per second, and at a height of 5 centimeters from the surface. And again the third layer, and then you level off struck with the tamping rod as a straight edge. And if any individual pieces are required, that you may be adding in the top surface after the, if there are some small gaps that are there in the cylinder. And the aggregate shall be weighed to the nearest 5 grams. So once you have these two values, then you are going to find out angularity number, that is 167 minus 100 into W by C into GA, where W is the mean weight in grams of the aggregate in the cylinder, and weight of the water required to fill the cylinder. So you already have these two values which you can take, and the specific gravity of aggregate is what you have to find out before performing this particular test, from which you are going to get the angularity number. So the next test that we are going to have is specific gravity and water absorption. Then we have bulk density and voids, and adjustment for bulking of fine aggregate. So this is one of the important tests that you have to perform mainly in the rainy season when you are performing the work in the project. So because there will be bulking of fine aggregate, you have to do some adjustments to the water content that is already present in the aggregates to the overall water content that you are going to add in the concrete, and then surface moisture in fine aggregate. So to do that, we should also find the surface moisture that is present for the aggregates, that is fine aggregate, as well as you can do for the coarse aggregate for doing the water adjustments. So we'll see this. So first, with respect to the specific gravity, so there are total 4 different methods that are available with respect to the size of the aggregates that we are going to have, but almost all are same, but slight deviation in the way in which we are going to calculate the specific gravity. So larger than 10 mm is, if you have all aggregates larger than 10 mm, then you can have method 1. If it is between 40 and 10 mm, either you can use method 1 or method 2. And if you have smaller than 10 mm, there is another method 3. And method 4 is an alternate method. This is nothing but the method that is used with respect to the concrete. So that anyway, I will explain later. So in the case of method 1, where you have aggregate larger than 10 mm, in this you are going to use a wire basket of not more than 6.0 mm wire mesh. So this is because we are using all the aggregates greater than 10 mm. The wire mesh in this case is 6.3 mm. And also you are going to use 2 dry soft absorbent cloths, because whatever here 3 types of measurements that you are going to take. One is submerged weight, another one is the weight under the saturated dry condition, where you are going to use these cloths for just removing whatever is the water that is there, and the third one is the oven dry condition, how much is the weight of that particular material that you are going to have. Using these 3 weights, you are going to calculate what is the specific gravity of that particular material. So in the case of this method 1, you are going to use this wire basket, and then you are going to weigh the particular sample by keeping this inside a water. So you have to make sure that you are having the weighing arrangement, submerging this entire wire basket into the water. And the sample that you have to take is not less than 2 kgs. So sample shall be thoroughly washed to remove fine particles, dust and rain, same at a temperature of 22 to 32 degrees centigrade, with at least 5 centimeter of water above the top. So once you are placing this, you have to make sure that water is at least 5 centimeter above the top. So you have to just rinse this particular bucket or moving up and down for a total of 25 times at a rate of 1 drop per second. so that whatever is the entrapped air is there, that will be removed from the aggregates that you are going to have inside the basket. And basket and sample shall remain immersed for 24 plus or minus half hours. So basket and sample shall be jolted and weighed. So this is the weight one, where the basket and sample will be in submerged condition and you are going to weigh how much is the weight. Next, basket and aggregates are removed from water and allowed to drain for few minutes, because there can be some water, you have to allow it for few minutes. And aggregates emptied for dry clothes. So emptied basket returned to water, jolt it for 25 times, so that if there are any particles, that will be removed and you are going to do the weight A2. So the A2 minus the A1 minus A2 weight will give you how much is the actual weight of the sample in the submerged water condition. The aggregate shall be weighed, then be B, that is that means under the surface dry condition, you are going to have a weight B, and then after oven dry condition, you are going to have a weight C. And specific gravity is whatever you have with respect to surface dry condition divided by B minus A. B minus A is submerged condition and you are having the surface dry condition. So surface dry condition weight minus the submerged will give you the B minus A. And specific gravity you can also calculate on saturated surface dry condition, where you are going to take B divided by B minus A, where B is the aggregate weight under the saturated surface dry condition. And then you have other parameters which you can calculate. So the weight of saturated aggregate is A1 minus A2. So this is with respect to the method one. And when you have an aggregate of 40 and 10, either you can use the previous method, or still, because this is also not having less than 10 mm aggregates, or you can use another method where you are going to use the airtight container and remaining will be the same. And here you no need to take the weight under the submerged water condition. You are going to take inside a particular container. Then sample around 1 kg. So sample shall be screened on 10 mm sieve, thoroughly washed and installed immersed in the distilled water. Again, same for 24 plus or minus half hours to get the saturated dry condition or the saturated condition. So vessel shall be overfilled by adding distilled water, and you are going to take the weight. So now you are going to have the weight of water plus the aggregates, and then refill the vessel with the distilled water. And so now you are going to take how much is the weight. So the difference of these two will be getting the weight of the surface submerged aggregates. Then weight aggregate shall be weighed with the surface dry condition by keeping in a oven for 24 and a half hours. So plus or minus half hours at a temperature of 100 to 110 degrees centigrade, where you oven dry condition aggregates. Again, the procedure same, D divided by C minus A minus B, where D is nothing but the oven dry condition and C is the saturated dry condition, and A minus B is where you are getting the submerged water, the aggregates in the submerged water condition. Okay. And similarly, aggregate smaller than 10 mm. So in this case, you are going to use the pycnometer, but the procedure is the same. About here also, you are going to take 1 kg for 10 to 4.15 mm. And if you are using less than 500 grams, if it is less than 4.75 mm. So you can use pycnometer, or you can use the other method in the previous case. So here again, the procedure is same. You are going to take the water with the dry condition. So where the weight is A, and then you are going to replace only with the water, weight is B, and then you are going to have the saturated condition and again oven dry condition. So the formulas are similar to the same, but here only thing is we are going to use the pycnometer for performing this particular test. So this method 4 is alternate method, which is described in IS 191199. So this is as per testing of concrete. So when we are seeing the concrete testing, which is not covering in today's session, maybe at that time we can see what is actually this method is about. Next important thing is with respect to the bulk density and voids, because whenever you are doing the mix design, the most important parameter for calculating the quantities is the bulk density, and also how much is the void content that is present to have a cohesive mix that you are going to prepare for the concrete. And the size of the container that you are going to use for the bulk density test is depending on the size of the aggregates that you are going to use, the largest size of aggregates. So if you are using for coarse aggregate having 4.75 mm and up to 40, then the nominal capacity is 15 liters and inside diameter is 25 centimeters and height, and so this is the containers that you have to use for doing the bulk density. Yeah, here the procedure, either you can do the rodded or compacted, or also you can do the loose weight. So in the case of rodded or compacted, you are going to fill the material in 3 layers by keeping it with a tamping rod of 25 strokes for each layer, and then surplus aggregate will be leveled using the tamping rod as a straight edge. The net weight, you are going to measure the empty cylinder weight as well as the weight with aggregates, where you are going to get the net weight of the aggregates divided by the volume of the cylinder that you are already having according to the dimensions. So where you can get how much is the density with respect to the rodded. Similarly, with respect to the loose, you are not doing any compaction, but you are pouring from a height of 5 centimeters above the top of the measure. So 5 centimeters from the top of the cylinder, you are going to measure it and see how much is the uh, weight that you are going to get, the weight of the aggregates. So the difference between the weight with empty cylinder as well as the empty cylinder weight, you will be getting the net weight of the aggregates. And when you are going to calculate the voids, it is GA minus the bulk density divided by GA, where GA is nothing but the specific gravity which you are going to measure in the previous case. Next one is adjustment for bulking of fine aggregate. So as in the rainy season, you will be having the bulking of sand. So how you are going to do this? So there are two methods by which you can do this particular test. First one is putting sufficient quantity of sand loosely into container until it is 2/3 filled. So first you are going to fill whatever is the sand that is available up to 2/3 fill, and then you are going to measure how much is the height that you are going to have up to that. So whatever is the height that is there, you are going to measure that. Now you are going to empty that particular sand that is there, and then you are going to fill the container up to half with the water, and then you are going to put back the sand in 2 different times. So first you are going to fill half and again the half. So that means whenever you are filling the water and then putting the sand, it will be in the optimum moisture content where there will not be any bulking of sand. So from that you are going to get the percentage bulking, where you have measure depth when the water is there and measure the depth without having the water. So the h by h dash is the least height where you have in the water condition or the saturated condition. Minus 1 into 100 will give you how much is the percentage bulking that you have for that particular aggregate. Similarly, in the case of measure 2, here you are not doing in two ways. First, you are going to take a 250 ml cylinder, and then you are going to pour the sand up to 200 ml. And then you are going to fill the cylinder with water so that the sand is going to submerge. And then find out how much is the later mark. So you are filling up to 200. When you are adding water, it may come to 180 or it can be up to 150. So that measure you are going to measure. So 200 divided by the after measure, you are going to get minus 1 into 100 will give you the percentage bulking. So here you are measuring both the times, and here we are fixing one value, and then you are just adding the water and finding out how much is the value. So this is a faster method compared to the previous you are going to have. Next, surface moisture in fire. Doing this of this method, you are getting the specific gravity in the saturated surface dry condition. So you can see here when we are calculating the specific gravity, in one we are calculating the specific gravity in saturated surface dry condition. So this specific gravity is what you have to take when you are going to calculate that. So in the previous IS codes, this particular saturated surface dry condition is not there in the latest code that has been given. So we are able to calculate the surface moisture in this aggregates. So here you are going to use manometer with volume 2 to 3 times the sample volume, and it should not be less than, sample should not be less than 200 grams. And you can do this determination by weight, or also you can do with the volume. So first let us see how you are going to determine the surface moisture in the fine aggregate with respect to the, so bulking is different and surface moisture, both are the different. So bulking mainly will help you when you are taking the way, when you are getting a trucks in volume basis. If you are taking the measurement, how much adjustment you have to take with respect to the weight. And also when you are doing in the concrete mix design corrections with respect to the moisture content, there you have to use the surface moisture in that. Containers shall be filled up to the mark with water and weigh in grams determined. Enough water shall be placed in the container to cover the sample, after which the sample for the fine aggregate shall be introduced. So initially the container shall be filled up to the mark, that means up to the top mark, or and then you are going to see how much is the weight. So once you have the enough water placed in the container to cover the sample, now you are going to fill the aggregates. That means you are first taking the weight of the water without having the sample and weight with the sample. So these are the two measurements that you are going to take. So Vs is the weight in grams of the water displayed by the sample. So that means whenever you have a different volume, you can find out how much is the water that is displayed by adding the aggregates in that particular sample. So mg is the weight in grams of container filled with water and weight in grams of the sample, and m is the weight in grams of the sample and container filled to mark with the water. So up to the top mark when you have this. And when you are going to determine with volume, so volume of water V1 sufficient to cover the sample shall be measured in ml and placed in the container. And weighted sample of fine aggregate shall then be admitted into the container and entrapped air removed. Now the combined volume of sample and water determined directly from the reading V2 is taken. So the difference of V2 minus V1 will give you how much is the volume of the sample. So once you have these values, and there are formulas given in the IS code for finding out percentage of surface moisture in terms of saturated surface dry fine aggregate, that is Vs minus Vd by, so P1 is percentage surface moisture in terms of saturated surface dry fine aggregate. So Vs is whatever is the weight in grams of the displaced water displaced, so that we are calculating in the weight method. Minus Vd is the weight of the sample that you already know, and then, so that is divided by the specific gravity on the saturated and surface dry basis. And m is the weight of the sample and percentage of surface moisture in terms of weight. So if you have these values, you'll be able to find out P1 and P2 values with respect to dry condition and with respect to the wet condition. Okay, so that concludes my presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, sir.
So that was, in fact, a presentation which all almost know, because what happens is normally cement, they test it, they get the test certificate, but aggregates and sand is taken for granted. That is what happens in most of the sites.
And we design with one aggregates, and once we get the site, you are having a different aggregates which we'll use with the same mix design, and finally we'll not get the results.
Correct. That is what normally happens. And that sieve analysis is hardly being used anywhere. We have seen, because we carry the sieve analysis, most of them say that why are you carrying it along in our maze one, we carry it so that people can make use of it, but they say why you are carrying it, it is not required. So even the particle size distribution is also taken for granted. So let us take some questions. Is it okay?
Sure.
Because there was one suggestion to conduct in regional language also.
Okay.
And one question from Mr. Venkatesh is, for dry sieving of cement for fineness limitation is not more than 10%, in which IS code the limitation is given? I don't think so in the IS code.
I didn't mention about the limit with respect to the fineness. It is whether you have to perform the retest or not. So that is what I have mentioned here.
But as of nowadays, we mentioned the air permeability apparatus, Blaine's air permeability apparatus. I think that limitation is given, which should not be more than 300 meters square per kg for PPC and 225 meters per kg for.
Those tests I didn't cover in today's session.
So another question by Ashmik is, when we conduct non-destructive rebound hammer test on cubes and destructive test on cube by compressive testing machine, what is the allowable deviation?
Okay.
There is no.
Not relevant to this, but see that again we have to see. Rebound hammer will not do directly on the concrete. So only once if the concrete cubes are failing, then only we'll go with the rebound hammer, and then we have to see whether is it with respect to the limitation as per the code. We'll not directly perform a rebound hammer and say that concrete is accepted.
And other thing is that we can also conduct tests to see whether there is any correlation between the compressive strength as well as the rebound number, because many times rebound number will not give the correct indicate the correct value.
That is only just to see whether we have to accept or reject the concrete.
Yeah. Any more? So what is the rate of loading for compressive strength of cement?
It's 35 Newton per mm square per minute.
How to determine the chloride content of sand?
That again, the other tests that we will be covering in second part.
Chemical, yeah.
Yeah, chemical analysis.
Chemical analysis of sand, in fact.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's it, because even in sand also there are so many chemical constituents which can be checked,
Yes, yes.
and all those are through chemical analysis, more of
Yes.
chemical analysis.
Yes.
That's it. I think not many questions. Yeah. I think these are some of the few questions that have been asked.
Okay.
In fact, as you rightly said, in some of the laboratories also, when they test the cement, because of the difference in temperature of testing and
Yes.
not maintaining that minimum humidity,
Yes.
there are cases when there is difference in values between
Yes.
different laboratories.
Even in summer also, they will do at 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock. There will not get the required numbers.
Correct. And another thing is that this measuring of standard consistency of cement itself is such a tricky thing.
Yeah.
Based on the gauger, sometimes if the gauger doesn't do it properly, you will find that there is a difference in result, and subsequently all the results also will change.
Yes.
We have observed this.
It should be experienced person mainly for consistency. So it should be mixed thoroughly and all.
As you rightly pointed out, it should be of uniform color and all that.
Yes.
Because with the number of laboratories that is coming up, I think even the kind of checking, the standard consistency test is what is the first test that we do on cement.
Yes.
I think it also needs to be looked into. Yeah. So that was a very informative session, in fact, on the testing of construction materials, because that is the first point from where we take off to make a good quality concrete.
Yes.
And many places, if they follow that, one of the questions that was being asked is that, do all the private projects follow this or not? It is there for us to see in our area.
Yeah.
Some of them follow, some of them do not follow.
Even if they are not doing properly, say that cement is not good. So
yeah, that is always there, because that is the only product where you give that test certificate. And sand and aggregate, nobody is giving a test certificate. No?
Yeah.
And another thing is that what I have noted is that if they are able to maintain a proper documentation of tests and the quality of material, as you rightly mentioned, if they are maintaining a proper documentation at site, it is very easy for objective investigation.
Yes.
Many times you don't find these documents at all in any of the project, small projects and all.
Only if there is any audit, they will make up and put the papers and do it.
That's it. No, even some of the projects do not have any kind of documentation, where other than some random compressive strength they will be having of cubes, and even those cubes also, whether it is cured properly or whether it is taken up properly, we do not know. But then that is a hard reality of construction practices nowadays.
And even when taking cubes at the site, they will be taking the cube in there.
I think a lot of So I think that was a very informative session, and tomorrow's session is at 3 p.m. By the architect, by Secretary of Indian Institute of Architects from Kerala. So that is based on architecture, and I think it will be very useful for all construction professions also. So that was a very excellent presentation, Professor Ravindranath Chowdhury, from your side. And NICMAR also has facilities for testing of construction material, is it?
Actually, we have a lab for training our students, but we don't do outside consultants.
Outside testing, okay. But you have facilities for checking the quality.
Yes. As part of their course curriculum, we teach them.
All right. Because basically the civil engineers are being taught on construction management at NICMAR Hyderabad. More stress is given to construction management.
And other two courses are quantity surveying and contract management, and health, safety and environment. So these are
okay. So that is a 2-year course for the students.
Construction management and project engineering management are 2-year courses, whereas the QSCM and HSCM are 1-year course.
That is for working professionals, is it?
Yeah. No. Even graduated students also can
graduate. So that was very useful information, and I'm sure that those construction professionals who want to upgrade their knowledge also can contact him. So thank you so much for having joined us on this 81st webinar. And thanks. And all
Thank
the
you.
professionals, as rightly pointed out by Professor Ravindranath Chaudhary, you must take all precautions and stay safe in this era of pandemic. Be alert. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir. All the
Thank you.
best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sign off from today's webinar. Thank you.
Yeah.